Hello everybody, and welcome to the Thursday broadcast, Dr. Pam's video clips. And first of all, just a couple of announcements. One of the first things I want to talk about is that those of you who are subscribers to the Health Briefs online library, we've taken off the first 2 volumes of articles. I did this for a couple of reasons. First of all, because some of that stuff is, I wrote these things 10 years ago, and I've changed my stance on some issues. And one of the things that's happened a couple of times in recent weeks is people playing a game I call Gotcha Dr. Pam, where they go dig up something I wrote 10 years ago, and then they accuse me of being inconsistent in what I have to say. And of course, my answer to that is one of the things we are all complaining about is that healthcare professionals in our country will not change their minds about anything, even when we confront them with enormous amounts of evidence about the efficacy of a plant-based diet or the inadvisability of taking statin drugs or daily aspirin and this sort of thing. So while I think it's important to have a consistent philosophy, I think it's ridiculous to think that people who change their mind about something are somehow deficient or inconsistent or that it's a bad thing. But just to avoid future arguments, because I do get tired sometimes of negative emails, although if you have something negative to say, feel free to send it. We take all emails here. But I do get tired of it sometimes, so I just decided to take those early articles that go back about 10 years off. So what's left is still about 4,000 pages of articles. I don't think most of you are going to be upset with what you find on the Health Briefs online library. The next thing is I have a great announcement on Monday, September 10th, and I'm giving you plenty of advance notice here. Dr. Janice Stanger is going to do a conference call for us on the paleo diet. This is a diet that gets a lot of attention. People are very confused about it, and Dr. Stanger is one of our favorite speakers, and I think one of the best scientists I know in terms of taking apart information and crunching all the numbers and looking at the science and providing good information. So put that on your calendar. You do not want to miss it. And of course, we're getting a lot of reservations for a fall conference. Don't wait, because we turned away 75 people last year, so it really is time to make reservations. And then one other class I want to talk about that we're offering in the fall through the Wellness Forum Institute is the Nutritional Issues and Controversies class, which I teach, by the way, and it's all about government policies and manufacturing companies and agriculture, not just in the United States, but worldwide, and how all of this has affected our choices and the information we get and that sort of thing. Fascinating class. Most people at some point in time feel like they're ready to blow a gasket with the information because it can be so maddening, but it's also really good to know. So now let's get to the news. The New York Times did an article on cheese. Actually, they've done several articles on cheese lately, including the incredible power of the dairy industry and its lobbying efforts to get fast food restaurants to sell more cheese and that sort of thing. But this article was really interesting, and it was talking about the fact that the dairy industry is under a lot of pressure to develop products that are lower in salt and lower in fat, because I guess one thing, even the USDA has acknowledged that Americans eat too much fat. Their recommendations don't really represent a big improvement, but they are pressuring the dairy industry to lower the fat content and salt content of cheese products. Well, it's not as easy as it sounds. In fact, if you take the salt and the fat out of cheese, the president of the Dairy Research Institute, Gregory Miller, says basically that cheese will start to taste a little bit like a pencil eraser. Yum. The reason is that the salt obviously adds a lot of flavor and helps the cheese hold its moisture, and the fat adds a lot to the texture. So when you take those things out of the food, you end up with a product that's pretty awful. And Dr. McDougall's been saying this for years, that if people would just eat plain dairy products that weren't adulterated with some type of flavor and that sort of thing, they'd be appalled at how awful it is. So the dairy industry is trying different replacements, and the products don't really work, and people don't want to buy them because they don't taste good, and they really can't make things like a lower fat Roquefort cheese or something of that nature. And so the article really expresses the frustration of the industry to be able to come up with a product that people want to eat that doesn't contain salt and fat. So my recommendation is, how about we just don't advise people to eat it anymore? What a concept, right? Well, our food pyramid doesn't have a place for dairy products, so that's, I think, a whole lot better. And instead of teaching, one comment that they made, that the dairy industry representatives made, is that maybe the solution to this is to gradually lower the fat and the salt content over a period of time, so that people acclimate to the different taste of fat and salt lowered in the cheese products, and think that they're pretty good, because as the amounts are lowered gradually. And I think the best thing is just get rid of this stuff, and in a couple, 3 weeks, your taste buds will adapt to not having it around anymore, and your health will improve a whole lot as a result of it. So all this fuss over we've got to make lower fat cheese products and lower salt cheese products, well, I think we just needed to get it out of the diet, as I mentioned, and here's a study that I'll report on that gives us some reasons why. One recent study shows that dairy products and high calcium intake are counterproductive for building strong bones in adolescent girls. And in this particular study, researchers followed the girls for 7 years, looked at their diets, their physical activity, and then the incidence of fractures. And the researchers concluded that the girls consuming the most dairy products and calcium were no better off. In fact, the girls who were the most active, which was defined as an hour or more of exercise per day, and who also consumed the most calcium, had twice the risk of stress fractures as compared to girls consuming less calcium. Now, this is a very significant finding, and I'll tell you why. It's because we know that the number one predictor of bone health in adulthood is physical activity in adolescence. And one of the reasons for that is that physical activity stimulates bone building. So the most active girls who were stimulating the building of the strongest bones, that was totally counteracted by high consumption of calcium and dairy products. So this is the opposite of what, of course, the dairy industry tells us, which is that if you want to build strong bones, you've got to drink milk and eat dairy products. But if you want to build strong bones, you need to be physically active and stay away from the dairy products and get your calcium from other sources. So the bottom line is that dairy products taste good because they are full of fat and we add salt to them. They don't really help your body very much. And this study, by the way, isn't the only one out there that says this. The vast majority of studies say that dairy and calcium intake do not result in stronger bones. So just best to get it out of the diet. These articles based on the information I'm sharing with you, I post in the Health Brace online library. The references are there and that sort of thing. So if you're looking to pass on referenced articles based on this stuff to this information to the people that you know, that's where to find it. But of course, you're welcome to forward the video clips to anybody who you think might enjoy looking at this material. So I'll stop for now, and I will look forward to talking to you all again next week. Have a great day.